Hello, KMMA Tribe. We are here alive at 11 for 11 at 11 to kick off another great day. And if you have joined, thanks for joining. If you've joined live, and if you haven't joined live, then I hope that you're watching this on a replay because I got a good message for you here today. And in fact, the message has changed like 3 times on specifically what I was going to talk about. Because originally today I wanted to talk about discipline. You know, discipline is our third black belt superpower. It's such an important and essential quality of success. Yesterday I shared it went out this morning, an email from somebody else. It was actually from the guy who does the Daily Stoic, and he's writing a book on discipline, and he makes the important point that discipline is the commonality in all successful people. And so I was going to talk about that. And then I was going to talk about, because remember earlier in the week I talked about time being our most valuable resource and how so many people squander it. And so I was going to talk about schedule and the importance of having a strong schedule. And I've recently reworked mine so that, it basically goes from like 6 in the morning to 10 o'clock every night, and I've even got it broken down by quarters so that I can get it all done. And so I was going to talk about that. And then I was going to talk about consistency. I was going to talk about the importance of making sure that once we have applied discipline to our lives and we have a schedule and we got these plans, that we have to have consistency. And they have to, in fact, the great book Atomic Habits is on having the consistency to actually turn your daily disciplines into habits such that then those habits create realities towards the goals that you seek. And then I had a crazy morning this morning that made me decide instead to talk about this relevant interdependent principle to all of those. And that is the importance of flexibility, of adaptability. One will always remember the great Gunny, what was his name? Gunny Hightower, I think, from, it was Clint Eastwood in Heartbreak Ridge. Improvise, adapt, and overcome. And what I thought about this morning, because I had a morning where I had a very positive and productive first quarter. 6 to 10 was still very positive and productive, but there was a myriad of contingencies that caused me to have to change exactly how I went about negotiating that morning so that it is still moving me in the direction of my goals. And that got me thinking about this particular lesson. And here it is, as succinctly as I know how to give. Sometimes there are, like it was for me this morning, a series of, in this case, micro mistakes or micro contingencies. Micro contingencies. Sometimes there's macro contingencies, right? But in the case of micro or macro contingencies, there's 2 different possibilities. The one is that, like mine this morning, you just had some element of piss poor planning that caused something to not go exactly according to plan, and so you have to change the plan. Sometimes it's not something caused by you at all. It could be something caused by an external environment or circumstance or condition. In either case, though, what I'm about to say is true, and this is really the crux of what I want to share today. I realized that very, very often I have to change my plans. And I thought about it and meditated upon it and realized that it's okay to change some plans along the way. Being too attached to exactly what we plan for the day and then, overreacting when it doesn't go our way would actually be counterintuitive towards moving us in the direction we want to go. So the lesson is, what we can do is change our plans, however, without changing our goals, without changing our focus, without changing our vision and the direction in which we want to go. So that when the contingencies happen, we don't change our goals, we don't change our vision, we don't change our direction, our desired outcome, our chief and definite aim, whatever way we want to talk about that thing. That's the thing that has to remain the same, the purpose, the outcome, the mission. But the plans, like all the stuff that goes down in the planner for each quarter of each day, that's subject to change, right? And in fact, I think it's an advantage that within the context of still moving in the direction of our goals and intent, that we are flexible with the specific plans for the day or even the first quarter of the day. You make it a great one. See you soon.